Afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your time and attention. Welcome to the Microsoft and OnActuate web presentation about migrating Dynamics GP and legacy Microsoft financial systems to the cloud. So thank you again. We're going to get started in the interest of time. This meeting is being recorded for those who want to have access to it in the future. But just as a quick matter of introduction, my name is Greg. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Public Sector for OnActuate. I'll tell you about our organization in just a second. And we have Terry Healy on the line with us from Microsoft. She'll talk a little bit about the upcoming end of life announcement and what that means to customers in just a second. And then I'll take the wheel over again, and we'll talk a little bit about migration options and strategies and what we've seen other government customers doing in this marketplace. So that's what's on tap for the next 30 to 60, 40-ish minutes. So that's what we're going to do. Terry, I'm going to turn it over to you. If you want to just tell me next slide, I can, in the interest of not sharing. If you want to share your own, that's good too. But I'm ready to move slides at your convenience.
Sure. Well, thanks everyone for inviting me again. And thanks to Greg and team for having me. I appreciate it. I'm Terry. I work at Microsoft, and I want to talk to you a little bit about some things with GP and where we go next. So after the last time we talked, gosh, a year has just flown by. I wanted to call out a few changes. We announced end of support for GP, which we talked about last year. But a big change with this diagram that we went to Summit, which is one of the larger user groups, and received a lot of feedback around the lifecycle announcement. And basically, it was around the end date. We had put it at September, and any date is really never a good time for a customer. But the feedback was with payroll and payables, year-end timing. We pushed it to December 31st of 2029. So what that means for you is it gives you a little more time to round out that year, and we will supply you year-end updates yet that year in 2029. Where before we were ending in September and, not giving any year-end updates through that full year of 2029. So that's probably the biggest change. It doesn't give you a lot of time, but it gives you a little time, more time around year-end. So you could finish off year-end in W-2s, 1099 changes. We will supply code updates in December for 2029. For our Canadian customers, that also means we would supply like the round one payroll tax update and US round one as well in December. Our next change that we kind of happened over the last year is we have customers that do subscription or SPLA licenses with us. And that means they really don't have GP installed on-prem. They're just launching through a browser. And when we announced end of life for the on-prem, we did not announce end of life for subscription pricing. This summer in June, we now announced end of life for subscription as well. And that typically means customers are billed monthly, quarterly, or yearly to use Microsoft Dynamics GP. So as the end dates indicate here, we will stop billing for SPLA. And so then you will not be able to use the product anymore, as well as if you were on a perpetual license. So that change was newly announced this summer in June of 2025. So I kind of wanted to bring that. Most of our customers are on prescription or subscription, or are not on subscription. Sorry, they're on perpetual. And so it doesn't apply to as many, but there are a few out there. And we had calls with we track all the SPLA revenue. So we did have calls prior with all those partners so they can notify their customers as well about this. Just to kind of reiterate some of the things with our dates. So we have passed this now, so we can't buy Microsoft Dynamics GP new anymore. That was done as of April of 2025. So if you're looking to, spin off or be a new customer of Dynamics GP, you can't. That is ended as of April. And then we also ended, so in 2026, that would be a new customer on subscription. So we still allow that if you want to be a new customer on subscription. That is out there till April of 2026. On December 31st, 2029, that is when the mainstream product support ends, and we won't provide any more year-end updates, tax tables, any type of service packs for you on Dynamics GP. And then the end of, using the product for Microsoft is the 2031 date. Of course, GP will keep running, and you can use it, but you wouldn't be supported for anything from Microsoft. This is, of course, our, modern life cycle slide that I want to always be aware of, as we move forward with these dates. We have extended that end date to 2029, the end of the year. So we changed that on the life cycle page. But, as we get closer, 2025 is winding down. We're going to head into 2026. It's just important to be watching your timeline and the company you're in, because as we go through talking today, it'll be a lot of change and it's not quick. And so we got to watch our timing. So this is the life cycle slide we need to look forward to. Let's talk a little bit about the release plan and schedule, what we have going forward for GP. And this is similar to before. So right now we're busy with our October release. So this will release around that October 1st date. We are going to have some features in there. This release is going to be a lot, though, around things that users probably aren't going to see because it's got some system changes in it. There's a .NET update that we needed to do some work on, and we just did a lot of background updates for our system to make sure things install properly. So we got like 3 or 4 features in for users, but not as much this update just because of all the system type of things we needed to do around the back end of GP to make sure it keeps running and going forward on some of these new operating systems, I guess I'd say. Then we will release year end. And of course, that's important this year with some of the beautiful build changes that came out. We're still reviewing that. We're waiting for IRS compliance to come out with, what the W-2s need. And then we will do some blogging around that for you as well to help around year end changes for US and Canada. And then continue on our life, cycle of the January and mid-year updates. So no changes to the release plan specific to GP. I just find this kind of funny as we head into a lot of migrations and talking about migrating from GP to BC. We can't all just jump in at once and go our different ways. I see that sometimes even in support now, working with AI and everybody's trying to get ahead with AI. But I think as we start looking at your migration process and, work with your partner and work with Greg and team to make sure everything is done, correctly and has the best plan going forward. So let's talk about a few things with the migration. We discussed this last year, but why now? If you want to, I think these pop up, Greg. Yeah. So, there's a lot of things of why now. And we talked about this last year, but I think security is important. I mean, GP is still secure, but as we move ahead into the future, data privacy and risks, just being on a legacy system, it's best to move forward and get your ERP into something that is more current. A lot of customers, they want seamless integrations and they want to, interact with their business seamlessly with some of this new things in Copilot and AI. And being on legacy GP doesn't offer the best type of those solutions. So getting over to Business Central, it's going to open up a wide array of things for you. There's a lot of promotions going on now as well through Microsoft, and Greg will talk through some of that, but I think it's important to keep that in mind. And of course, we don't want to wait till the end. When I'm on a lot of partner calls and talking to partners, everybody's probably just going to get busier. And projects are going to build up as everyone needs to move. So I think don't wait till the end and plan accordingly, as we'll talk about some of that. But our time is, we're already into really 2026, and 2029 is the end. That only gives us 3 years. So I think it's just important to keep that in the back of your mind as we move forward and start our planned approach to migrating. What are some of the tips for the migration? I'm sure Greg has a lot as well, because they work right with the customers, but just some of the things that I hear from other people or talking with customers is, you don't want to do a shift and lift, right? You want to look at your systems. Where can we change things that we've lived with for so long that maybe we want to implement differently? A lot of customers aren't like taking the baggage. They're not taking all their vendors and putting them over into Business Central. Really look at, maybe it's just the active ones, or how do you want to change your business processes as we go through this migration. Now is the time to change your mindset and think about how you want to improve your workflows and things in your business, right, with this change in ERP systems. As we talked, like data cleanup's important, what to bring, excuse me, and learn how you want to improve things during this time in your business. Some common things, and again, I don't see everything, but some of the common items would be your data quality and that, excuse me. Sorry, just had to clear my throat.
No worries, Terry. You're
Oh,
good.
goodness. So some of the common errors. Again, I don't see everything, but it's always good to do a test run. And I'm sure Greg will talk about some of that. There's a lot of changes with GP to BC. We have analytical accounting in GP. That shifts a little different in Business Central. So if you're using that, think of some of those processes. It's going to take planning, and it's not going to be easy. And we want to make sure that everyone's on board with your process. Also think of the users, and remember training. I think training is key when we're changing ERP systems. We want to make sure our users are educated, and I'll cover that a little bit in the next slide, what we're hearing a lot from customers around the training and what they're expecting. A few important links specific to what Microsoft has put out there. I mean, there's a wealth of information. If you search, a lot of, excuse me, people have put information out there.
All right. Thank you very much, Terry. We appreciate you going through that that section and all that great information. We love having our friends from Microsoft on to share the message. So thank you for that. We will have a chance for questions, folks, in the attendee room. But at this point, we're going to shift gears and we'll talk a little bit more about some tactical strategies. So thank you again, Terry.
Yeah.
Just a little transition question. Have you started looking at replacing GP? You can answer in the chat. Really trying to get a pulse for where people are at in their migration journey. We'll shift gears and we'll talk a little bit about some of the work that other customers in public sector have done to move away from the older systems. So with that, just a quick introductory slide about my company OnActuate. We've been around for about a dozen years. we work with small to very large customers. We are focused on the public sector. We work with the City of Columbus, one of the original Microsoft Dynamics public sector customers over in Ohio, large complex city governments, all the way down to small state agencies that have a handful of users for a little general ledger system. So that's what we do. We love ERP. That's our heritage. That's our passion is helping customers run more efficiently on their financial systems. Some things to think about at a high level is we're talking about reasons to make a change. Obviously, we covered the end of support announcement, even though that window of a couple years from now is seemingly tomorrow and several tomorrows from now, it'll come by very quickly with procurement cycles and implementation plans and getting people set to work in new environments. It's less time than you think. So I think that's always there with this announcement. But in addition, and this is a little bit different since we started this conversation a year ago, the pace of artificial intelligence innovation has just been all over the news this year, has moved at breakneck pace. And one of the really exciting things about Microsoft is they are putting all their chips in the middle of the table on AI across all business lines. And you're starting to see already today large improvements in product based on AI. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means specifically. But one thing of note is Microsoft is very careful and very responsible with their use of AI. So everything has the ability to be turned on or off by the customer. So we think that's really important for meeting customers where they are and their willingness to push the boundaries of innovation. But all of that is in there today. So is the starting point why stay with the Microsoft platform as you consider making a change? We understand and we're respectful that there's other tools in the marketplace that can perform financial activities, but we're big enthusiasts of the Microsoft platform. And here's a couple of reasons why. There are two applications on offer that you'll hear about in more detail. That's Dynamics Business Central and Dynamics Finance, or Dynamics Finance and Supply Chain. Sort of the big cousin, little cousin arrangement. One is more intended for large organizations, and one is for mid-sized, small organizations. But both choices on offer have a wide variety of advantages for the marketplace, starting with the Azure cloud. That's Microsoft's cloud environment, which is super highly available and secure. That's what helps keep people's data safe from all the nasty things out in the web today. So having that Azure cloud backbone is a big part of driving security and compliance, as well as a super highly available application. Both applications are comprehensive. There are more features in D365 Finance that we'll talk about, but both offer a wide range of financial modules. Power BI, that's something that you'll see as you move away from those old reports, those old static reports, and move into more visual experiences, interacting with data. So lots of Power BI embedded in the system. Entra ID, that's the old Active Directory's name. That provides that user authentication so you can effectively manage your security policies across your employees accessing this just like any other Microsoft cloud application. These are web browser based solutions. So if you have something that's connected to the internet, you can use it. I probably wouldn't try to do your financial reporting on an iPhone, but you do have ability to look at pieces of data in shrunken places. There are native apps that you can use for things like expense management. You can pinch and zoom to, say, an iPad. If you want to be on the go and look at financial reports, you can do that without any extra work. So there's a lot of flexibility in how you interact with the system. Role-based security, that's meant to make make sure people are doing the right jobs for their permissions and for what they're supposed to do. And also it provides that foundation for segregation of duties, meaning it keeps people from approving vendors and issued checks or doing things that can put your business at risk from a compliance standpoint. Integration, that's a big advancement from the older systems. You can use a wide variety of tactics to connect to almost anything today. So be that APIs or file sweeps, even integrating to other parts of the Microsoft stack, such as Office. You can do a lot of neat things with Excel. You can interact back and forth with the system. That really cuts data entry work. So a lot of things there. And then finally, like I said just a second ago, lots of access to innovation, the AI stuff, the co-pilots, lots of new features that you'd never even be able to dream of 20 years ago, that are just baked as part of the core functionality. And we'll talk a little bit about those as well. So all things that are available should you choose to stay with the Microsoft framework. With that, I wanted to start just with a little bit of AI. What is AI? What does this mean today? What we're already seeing in the Dynamics applications is AI is behind the scenes making things simple for the user experience. So you'll see suggestions, you'll see ways of asking questions in plain English. How can I open a purchase order? If you just type that in, the system will start telling you how to open a purchase order in the system. It looks at trends and says, hey, this vendor may be a little suspicious. They've had lots of late deliveries. They've had problems. So it starts looking at transactions in your system to predict future behavior. And a lot of automation in terms of your data entry, kind of wasted effort type activities. You'll see that with some bank reconciliation. You get lots of banking data in your system. It'll automatically look at things that look off and warrant further attention. So you're not looking at all kinds of bank transactions for hours and hours on end. What this slide here shows is how Microsoft looks at where the future of AI can help financial users and people using business systems to be more efficient. Where users of GP and older systems are sitting at right now is on the left, which is just you as a person working on your own in a system, which is how systems have probably worked since the mainframe days in the 70s. Where we're at right now today is kind of in between the two bigger boxes. Knowledge workers and Copilot, what that's showing is that there's already capabilities of Copilot in the system to help bring that data in front of you. So those things that I mentioned earlier about the system looking behind the scenes for trends, for things that you could act on, for suggestions, that's Copilot working behind the scenes, trying to anticipate what you may want to do in your job. Where all of this is heading is the bigger box on the right, which is having this this list of agents. So the AI agents are designed to perform tasks, and the goal is using Copilot to manage those agents will help you as a knowledge worker be a force multiplier and do lots of things with those AI agents doing those things in the background. So that's the vision of where Microsoft wants to go, bringing AI into financial and business applications. No big shocker here on this slide. What holds people up? It's having systems that are limited from a implementation standpoint. If you have all kinds of systems all over the place, if you have data in 10 different places, if your business strategy doesn't align with facilitating greater access to information, then you'll have challenges. So one of the big value props that we see of the Microsoft platform is it starts breaking down these barriers so you can get further down the road of having better information. So I'm going to do a couple, whoa, this went a little fast. One moment. There we go. Let's see. So a couple things here. These are just some examples of what's in the application today from an AI perspective. You can't really read it per se, but you see these little purple bubbles. What these purple bubbles are showing is that you can take plain English. In this case, it says, show me the latest invoice. So I just type that into the system, and the system will start looking for that information in a variety of ways. It can find something, it can explain something to me. If I don't understand how to do it, it can give you help details. So this is a great way to forget the old-fashioned way of clicking in screens and finding things in menus and remembering how exactly to do something, and just using your brain to type a question into the system and having an answer put right in front of you. So that's a big advantage there. So this here is a example of you putting these questions in and you getting answers. Bank reconciliation. This is another one that I mentioned about taking away that data entry struggle that people deal with. If you're pulling in banking transactions from your bank, it's going to show matches and reconcile those, and it's going to show mismatches for you to look at. So that's something that is pretty useful. So this right here, this is all Copilot pulling a list of lines. So in this case, some things matched automatically, some things Copilot thinks it matched. This is on a carousel, so we'll keep seeing it all day if we want. But this right here, it helps take that that effort away from you doing the bank reconciliation activity yourself. One last thing, auto fields, auto filling the fields. This is another data entry improvement. So it can start suggesting for you to enter things in. So you start putting things in here like this, and it may not be an exact match, but you're putting something in, and then it it finds that information for you. So another example of having a little bit more seamless information put in front of you without struggling. So just a little sampler, a little free sample of how AI automatically got included in the system, and you can use it if you want. So I'll shift gears and talk a little bit about how to get moving. Some things to think about. You may have had a system, especially if you're part of a larger organization, you may have had GP using a very specific business area. It could be for a department or even for a part of a department where your large city or county ERP system can't handle the needs, or it's just kind of been off on its own for a long time. So we think it's always good policy to start making a list what your business is not achieving using your system today, what sort of things you're looking to have, and try to come up with an early roadmap. Not necessarily hiring, a big consulting firm to spend half a year with you, but we think it's always good to have some mindset of where you'd like to go. With that, I'll talk a little bit more specifically about the two choices that Microsoft offers the marketplace. We have Business Central and Finance and Supply Chain. Business Central is the smaller cousin, the smaller application of the two, and Finance and Supply Chain can scale all the way up to large multinational corporations. So really, to start with Business Central, the first point is it's more of an out-of-the-box experience. It does general ledger, procurement, payables, receivables. It does a lot quite well, but your range of configurations, your range of flexibility of how you want to actually set up your system is somewhat limited compared to the larger option of D365 Finance. Business Central is shorter to deploy. We typically see projects in the couple of months time frame. You really have to push to get more than 6 months. 6 months is going to be very complicated or very slow or multiple phases, something like that. There is a very, very low bar for entering the application from a licensing standpoint. So We see organizations that have a handful of people. I have 4 people in a finance office that need a general ledger to do a couple things. That's a great choice for Business Central. And that's more of the natural evolution of what GP used to be and where GP went into the newer application space is that Business Central application. The D365 Finance application is the more flexible, more functional, more powerful application. So you do have more capabilities specific to public sector, fund accounting, pre-encumbrances, encumbrances. If you're doing that from a purchasing standpoint, that is all supported. If you're doing a level of project accounting for doing multi-year capital projects, things of that sort, that's in there. Lots of configurability. AI is in both, but there's just a little bit more in the D365 finance side. So 2 applications out there, main points. Some things to think about, like I mentioned, from the Business Central side, that is going to be the lower price point. So no license minimum. We've seen some organizations, if they have 6 users, it's $5,000 a year in software costs. With that, there is limitations on how you can buy that. There's commercial cloud deployments exclusively. So if the GCC means something to you and is very important, there's ways to still make it work. I'll talk about one of our projects, but the Business Central application does not deploy native inside the government cloud. Also, the way those licenses work is it's more of a kind of a shrink wrap license experience. So kind of like the days of going to Best Buy or Circuit City where you buy a box and take it with you. It's more or less your buying experience. So you purchase it directly through your service provider and not off of a larger contract or state contract type situation. D365 Finance, that does come with a user minimum of 20 full users. That more or less works out to about a $40,000 a year license commitment to start. So you do the math. Business Central, you can get in the door for as low as a handful of thousands, and D365 a couple of dozen thousands of dollars a year for software. So that may be important for you if you only have a couple users. If you have 500 users, then the 20 users doesn't really mean that much. There is that complexity behind it that goes with the functionality and the depth of capabilities, and that does show itself in implementation efforts and timelines. So the implementation effort is more involved. We could probably do a basic implementation in a couple of months, but end-to-end larger projects typically run closer to 10 to 15 months, depending on how complex of a shop you are. There are more purchasing avenues for government organizations, so it does exist on state contracts, enterprise agreements. If you are currently paying Microsoft existing software maintenance fees for your old licenses, there is the possibility of getting trade-up credit to offer a pretty substantial discount moving away from your old licenses. So that is something that Microsoft is willing to do for their loyal customers that have been paying that maintenance for years. And there is also the native government cloud deployment. So lot more choices to make on the D365 finance side if those are important to your organization. I'm going to jump into some really quick customer examples. Wanted to start with our friends in the hills in West Virginia. So the West Virginia Lottery, they were a GP customer for a long time. And they did work with OnActuate to move to Dynamics Business Central. This was a 4-month implementation, more focused on general ledger and fixed assets, along with some integrations. They do use the state purchasing system for purchasing and payables, so not a full-scale end-to-end implementation. They did deploy in the commercial cloud because they use Business Central, but we did have that connect to the state's government cloud Entra ID. So there are ways to get past that government cloud limitation if you should want to do so. Another example of a GP customer is the Pinellas County tax collector. That's down in beautiful Clearwater, Florida, which is right there. I think that's the harbor in St. Pete's. They chose instead to work with Dynamics 365 Finance, and they chose a multi-phase deployment, really to get some good value in a couple of months. So that first phase one, which focused on GL and core purchasing and payables functionality, that was done in 4 months. And then they added on pieces and pieces over time. So a pretty nice example of a mid-size standalone entity that's running Dynamics Finance for their business. And they did it in a pretty flexible manner that worked for their business needs. So great customer down in the Gulf of South Florida. So one thing to think about too, stepping away quickly from actual systems, is data. You may have data, you may want to get rid of data, you may be afraid of data, but data is always part of the conversations of moving to a new solution. So one of the things that we're really excited to offer to our customers is our partnership with E1 Solutions. They've been in the Great Plains ecosystem as a third-party ISV software provider for forever. They offer Extender and Smart List Builder, which were some add-on features for GP that people use to make the system more functional. And there's a migration tool that they include, or that they propose, which greatly simplifies the data conversion activities away from your old system. We, as a systems integrator, never recommend putting lots and lots and lots of old data in a new system. That's rarely recommended by any software conversion activity. But we have organizations that still need their old data. They may need it for reporting purposes or retention requirements. So this PopDoc solution that I mentioned is a very cost-effective way to suck the old data out of your system, put it up in the Azure cloud, have access to it, and then create a view so you can see that data alongside your new data in the system. So that allows you the ability to actually unplug your old system. The old system can completely go away, and your old data is still accessible in a user-friendly format. Very cost-effective, very easy to do. We're working on that with one project now. They have thousands of customers because they've been working with the GB community for decades. So it's a nice way to lower that risk of data as you consider moving to a new system. I'm going to just kind of start rounding out the presentation with just a couple of screenshots of what you can have as a user experience. This right here is a dashboard. It's technically a Business Central dashboard, but it's really not that different from either of the two. What this is a nice management view of a couple different things. In this case, it's more kind of customer revenue related, not so public sector focused, but you get the idea that it can help give you visual information of what you're doing on a business perspective. This right here is the new view of D365 Finance. This user experience came out in June. It completely re-engineered the landing page of Dynamics and put AI right front and center. What you can see, it's not highlighted or there's no little animations, but up on the upper right, there's the little Copilot icon, and you can use that to ask questions. So that's right there for you to do those natural language, how do I open a purchase order type things. These two big horizontal boxes on the left, that's a Copilot suggestion. So that's a suggestion to say, hey, we think we can do some agent activities to automate processes. In this case, it's saying, hey, you can confirm purchase orders without making any changes. If that's how you want to do it, we can have an agent confirm purchase orders with no changes. So there's just different ways to start interacting with those AI agents to make your work life a little easier. So that's an example there of AI and the Dynamics finance application. So with that, I'm going to kind of wrap up, we don't like to take full 60 minutes on these in case there are questions from anyone. We'll open up the 800 number in just a second. But really, what is the whole point of this presentation today is act now. Time is short. Everyone thinks they have time until time disappears. So even though that announcement of end of life is a couple years out, we do encourage our customers, especially government organizations that need to go through budget activities and procurement cycles and contracting and implementations, to not be left in the cold when the system gets unsupported. So we think that's really important to emphasize that, to be good stewards of our government partners so that no one is in trouble when the application does finally go away. But also, our point of view is that both choices in the market from Microsoft, the Dynamics Business Central choice and the Dynamics Finance and Supply Chain Management choice, are really outstanding solutions for the government marketplace. And those are some things that can be valuable to organizations for years to come. From our perspective, and I'll open up to Q&A. I'll stop the slideshow, but we are happy to talk with you. We're happy to spend a little time on learning more about your business free of charge to make a more specific recommendation of what we think could be the most useful to you. We are in the midst of about a half a dozen migrations, either completed or in flight. In addition to those two that I showed on the slideshow. So we're very familiar working with these legacy applications and government needs. So we're more than happy to spend a little time with you to put specifics to your organization. But with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'll open up the audience. Are there any questions that we may want to look into? So we have an open chat list. We'll give you all a couple minutes. If anyone wants to ask anything, preferably about GP migrations, please, now's the time. And with that, quiet is okay. We're not yet in school season where we're going to force someone to come to the front of the classroom. But this is what I mentioned. We're happy to spend some time with you to understand a little bit more about where you're coming from and what you may want to do from a migration standpoint. So there is a link here, but I'll also leave you my name at the end. Another question, if you want to ask, was this presentation impactful? We want it to be educational while providing a point of view. So if you want to answer if this presentation did provide some motivation to get going, to clean out your basement before the winter comes from a software analogy standpoint, we are happy to do that. But with that, I'll leave my smiling face. You've seen enough of it already, but thank you all very much for the time today. We have a few minutes left if anyone has any lingering questions that just entered your head, but you can find me on LinkedIn, on my email here, on the old-fashioned phone number. Go to our website, contact your Microsoft rep if you'd rather. We're all a team that works very closely together, and happy to answer any questions about your legacy systems. So last chance for free questions, if there are any.
I'll go ahead and take the one in the chat there, Greg.
Sure. Okay.
You about bet. Earlier. So questions about, what's important about investing in Dynamics GP, and should I be staying on my enhancement plan? Again, every company is a little bit different, but just a couple things to keep in mind. If you drop, we can't become a new user anymore for GP. So to stay current on your enhancement plan, you get all the service packs in your end. You can buy new users. You'd be surprised. I do hear that at least once a month. We need to buy new users. Maybe it's some data cleanup before the migration, but people want to buy some new users. If we're not current on our enhancement plan, then we can't buy new users. Another thing also for some of the promotions, like the Bridge to Cloud, you have to be current on an enhancement plan in order to participate in the promotions that Microsoft gives out. So I think, depending, it is important to be on your enhancement plan and current to get some of the benefits that come out there.
Thank you, Terry, for that.
Mhm.
That's much appreciated.
See, they'll get the recording with handouts. Is that correct? Yeah. Yes, all
Yes.
registrants will be emailed the recording with the handouts and links. A lot of links and information in there. So it was very good.
Super. Well, folks, it's almost fall wherever you are. I'm in Colorado, and it's a little cool in the morning, so time flies. But thank you all very much for investing part of your day with us. We really appreciate the time and
Mhm.
attention. It's always a privilege to have the opportunity to speak to folks in government. So thank you for that. With that, I will cut you all loose. Have a great rest of the week, and we appreciate the time. And have a great fall. Thank you all.